We pull up in front of their house after taking Catherine to the hospital to get stitches. All of us on high alert the entire time, making sure the changeling didn't try to come back and finish her off. Thankfully, nothing happened. Once everybody gets inside, Noah slams the door, obviously pissed off. "We almost had it! Damn it! But next time it won't get away." He tells everybody to sit down and then starts to explain his plan. "The room where I keep all of my weapons, that's where we're going to trap it." I interrupt. "How are we supposed to do that? Literally everything surrounding your house is warding it off." "We'll have to start getting rid of some of those barriers. It'll take a little while. I estimate a few weeks, but we've also got to do it all while trying not to seem too suspicious. We'll need to make it look like we're just doing some yard work and cleaning up outside. But in all actuality, we'll be creating an opening for the changeling." "Noah, are you crazy? What about the kids? It's too dangerous," Catherine replies. "Just hear me out. We'll leave the front of the house exactly how it is. The back door has that same iron gate as the front, but it's on the inside of the screen door, not the outside. So I say we just remove it, because then the changeling won't notice that one's missing, and we can install it downstairs in the basement. Then slowly but surely we'll cover all of the crushed eggshells with soil and mulch. We can even plant some flowers. What I want to do is leave the back of the house open for it, and once it's here, we'll know immediately." "What if it shows up before we're finished?" I ask. "I've already bought a silent alarm system that will send a message to our phones that will warn us of its presence." "And once it's inside of the house, then what?" Catherine asks, clearly not convinced that this is a good plan. And I'm kind of thinking the same thing. It just seems too easy. I hope it's as simple as Noah's trying to make it sound, but most likely it won't be. Complications are sure to arise. That's just how it works when it comes to this. But I keep my thoughts to myself and keep listening as Noah continues. "We'll already have placed a line of crushed eggshells in the doorway to every single room of the house, except for the kitchen, dining room, and basement. The only direction it will be able to go is down. Each of us will have a role to play in this, so listen carefully." He goes on telling us what each of us will need to do when the time comes. Once he's finished, we all agree that it's a pretty good plan, but just like with every other plan we've thought of so far leading up to this, we know that there can always be mishaps. We begin working on Noah's plan right away. The next morning, him and Zachary start to install and set up the alarm system. While they do that, Catherine and I go pick up some plants, soil, mulch, and other yard supplies that we're going to need. Sitting around watching Zachary help Noah makes me think a lot about Tim. They used to do stuff like this all of the time together. He catches me staring at him a few times and I just smile. Hopefully after all of this is said and done, everything will work out the way I want it to. If Tim isn't too angry with me over not telling him about the changeling and leaving him behind in Colorado, I'd love nothing more than for the three of us to be a family again. If things don't work out like that, I'd at least like for him and Zachary to still have some type of a relationship. It takes the guys all day to get the alarm working, but they get it done and it works, which thankfully relieves some of the stress and worry. The next day, I show Catherine how to make my special pepper spray concoction, and we spend most of the day making a stockpile of it. Then we all sit down and spend some time with their kids. We haven't told them anything about what we're doing and what may be coming, but I can tell that they know something is wrong. A lot of people tend to think that half of the time kids don't pay attention to what's going on around them, but they are more aware than you may think. I learned that a long time ago while raising Zachary. Next, we focus on moving all of Noah's weapons from the room in the basement and relocating them to the 4 safes that he bought. We've strategically placed them around the house. One in Noah and Catherine's bedroom, one in my room, one in Zachary's room, and the other in the living room. That way, no matter where we are when it comes, we'll be ready. Then we focus on the yard. Noah cuts the grass while Zachary puts down the mulch. Catherine and I focus on the garden. The kids have a blast helping us plant the flowers because what kid doesn't love to play in the dirt? It rains for the next few days after that, which means we can't do anything outside. So we focus on crushing eggshells, then we place them in the doorway to every single room of the house, except for the back door leading into the kitchen, the entryway leading from the kitchen into the dining room, and the doorway leading down into the basement. When the weather clears up, we continue our work outside. Zachary lays a few more layers of mulch down, and Catherine and I finish planting the rest of the flowers. Last, Noah removes the iron gate from the back door and installs it downstairs in the basement. Then he buys an electronic keypad. That way, if one day his kids ever get curious, there's absolutely no way for them to get in there because he's the only one who has the code to open it, which he says he plans on never doing. It takes us a few weeks to get everything in order, but we work day and night because we have no idea when the changeling will show up again. But at least now we know that when it comes this time, we'll be ready. Then one night, we're all sitting down eating popcorn and watching a movie in the living room when we hear a car door close outside. Zachary gets up and looks out the window, then shouts, "Oh my God, I can't believe it," as he starts heading toward the door. I get up and follow him. "Wait, where are you going?" Just as I step out onto the front porch, I see an Uber sitting at the curb, and my husband Tim is trying to get something out of the trunk. He looks over at us and grins. "Hey Zach, can you give me a hand with this?" he questions, referring to his bag that he's still pulling at. "Sure, Dad," Zach replies as he starts to make his way further down the walkway. I smile from ear to ear, but then Noah comes out onto the porch and peers into the darkness asking, "Who's that?" As soon as the words leave his lips, they hit me with a whole nother meaning. Who actually is that? Because I know it can't be my husband. I race after Zachary and grab a hold of his shoulder right before he steps down onto the sidewalk as Tim is still yanking on whatever's in the trunk. "What are you doing?" Zachary asks, confused. "Wait, how did he know where to find us? Did you tell him where we were?" Zachary tells me, "No, I swear. I haven't talked to him since we left the hospital." At that moment, Tim stops yanking on whatever's in the trunk and turns around with a huge grin on his face, obviously pretending he needed help just for Zachary to cross the barrier. He takes 2 steps toward us and stops, now within only 2 feet of us. He grins and says, "I almost got you. I guess your filthy bloodline isn't as stupid as I thought." Then he tilts his head and scoffs at Zachary. "Or are you?" "Get back inside, that's not him," I yell as I start pushing him back up the walkway. At the same time, the Uber driver becomes annoyed and shouts, "What are you doing, mister? I got more people to pick up." But the changeling, still staring at us, completely ignores him. So the man walks up behind it, places his hand on its shoulder and says, "Hey buddy, did you hear me? You've got to get your bag out of my trunk. I gotta get going." Then in one swift motion, it turns around and just snaps his neck. The man instantly falls to the ground as the changeling turns back toward us laughing. We start running, then I shove Zachary through the door, lock it, and watch to see what it does next. After standing at the curb, watching the house for almost an hour and grinning back at me with Tim's face and the driver's body still at its feet, I break out in a rage, throwing things off of the table and screaming because I'm unable to hold it all in anymore, knowing that Tim must be dead now. Zachary walks up behind me and squeezes me tightly. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was just so happy to see him, I wasn't thinking straight." I burst out in tears and he tells me that everything's going to be okay, which even though I know that it won't be, him just saying it helps me calm down a little. Then finally, the changeling just walks away. We stay up all night, thinking that tonight is the night. Since it was scoping out the house, we know that it must be planning on coming back when we're all asleep. But when it doesn't, right before the sun comes up, Noah and I lift the Uber driver's body into the trunk of his car, and then Noah drives off into the darkness to dispose of it. I follow behind him in his car so that I can drive him back, thinking that the changeling leaving that body behind right in front of the house is just another way to mess with us. Days go by, then weeks, then a month, and still no sign of the changeling. A part of me is glad because I'm kind of scared to fight it again. I'm tired of someone getting hurt every time we face off with it. But then another part of me just wants this to be over. Then finally, after waiting a month and a half, it's the middle of the night and we're all in bed asleep when my phone goes off alerting me that someone or something is on the property. I leap out of bed and dial Noah's number. At the same time, I'm punching in the code to the safe. He answers right away. "Get to the basement," he whispers. I shove a pistol into the waistband of my pajama pants, then grab the tranquilizer gun and a can of pepper spray from the safe before closing it. As I start to tiptoe through the darkness, trying to find my way to the basement, I step on the crushed eggshells in my doorway. They stick to the bottom of my foot, and as I attempt to scrape them off onto the carpet, the knob on the back door begins to twist. That's when I see Zachary sneak out of his room, dart into the kitchen, and hide in the pantry, leaving the door open just a crack so that he can still see what is going on. Zachary's job is to lure the changeling from the kitchen into the dining room. When I see Noah and Catherine come out of their room, I know I've screwed up. I'm already supposed to be down in the basement, but I was so focused on waiting to see that Zachary safely made it to where he was supposed to be that now things already aren't going according to plan. When Noah turns on the lights and sees me standing there, he doesn't say anything, but I can tell he's mad. "Sorry," I mouth to him from across the room. "Now what?" Catherine questions. "Just stick to the plan. We'll figure out a way to make sure Abby gets down to the basement in time," Noah replies, just as the back door swings open. We raise our weapons and wait in anticipation and fear for whatever is out there to step through the open door. When nothing happens, Zachary busts out of the pantry, clutching an open box of gingerbread cookies, screaming, "Come and get me, you bastard!" My heart starts thumping out of my chest. It's pounding so incredibly hard that I can hear it echoing in my ears. I gulp and take a step forward. Then a second later, I go stumbling backwards in fear when the changeling lets out a thunderous growl, so loud and powerful that it causes the lights to start flickering. But before I can fall, I catch myself and grip the tranquilizer gun as tightly as I can. I can hear that familiar sound of its rapid breathing as it approaches. Finally, it steps into the doorway, a trail of clear, slimy, thick saliva dripping from the corners of its mouth. Its elongated tongue slithers in and out of its mouth like a snake. As it takes a step forward, Zachary darts across the kitchen into the dining room and grabs the crossbow that Noah has waiting for him. Immediately, the changeling goes after him. "Go! Go now while we've got it distracted," Noah shouts at me. Not wanting to leave Zachary, I glance over at him. Noah sees me and promises, "He'll be okay. I won't let anything happen to him." So I go darting across the room to the basement door, and right before I close it behind me, I see Zachary shoot the changeling with an arrow right in the throat, and then Catherine starts placing a pile of the crushed eggshells in the doorway of the kitchen so that it can't try to make its way back outside. I hear its booming voice scream, "I'm going to kill you all. These eggshells can't keep you safe forever. I can just outweight you now that I'm already in here." I race down the stairs as it screeches and growls, and then wait next to the open door of the room that we're going to trap it in. I feel like I'm dying inside, not knowing what's going on up there. All I can hear are its screeches and things crashing to the floor. I wish I'd put up more of an argument when Noah told everyone what job they'd be tasked with when it was time. Suddenly, my heart nearly leaps right out of me when I hear Catherine's frantic screams. I'm just about to run back up there when they abruptly stop, and then I hear a thud like someone's body just hit the floor. I'm sweating so intensely that it's literally dripping from every single pore of my body. I lower the tranq gun and wipe my head with the sleeve of my shirt so that it doesn't slide into my eyes. Once I've done that, I raise the gun again, aim it at the stairs, and get back into position. Then a wave of terror takes over my body when I hear one of the kids crying. They're supposed to be locked inside of their bedrooms. That was the plan. When the alarm went off, either Catherine or Noah were supposed to lock them in there. But everything just happened so fast, they must have forgotten. I hear footsteps racing up the stairs, and I assume it's one of the kids running back to the safety of their bedroom. At least, that's what I hope it is. Then I hear more stuff crashing to the floor and breaking. "Where did she go? I can smell her filthy stench all over this house. I know it's referring to me. Then the basement door swings open and I hear Noah scream, "She's down here!" I tighten my finger around the trigger of the tranq gun, but then loosen it a second later when Noah comes flying through the air and slams into the wall at the bottom of the stairs. "Abby," it calls as it sniffs the air. "I know you're down there." Noah glances over at me and gives me a nod, letting me know that he's alright. So I tighten my finger on the trigger once again. Then the stairs start to creak as it takes its first step. When it gets far enough down the stairs that I can see its feet, I notice another set of feet standing a few steps behind it. Then I hear the sound of the pepper spray being released from the can, and its screeches flood the basement. It comes toppling down the stairs and lands right next to Noah. I pull the trigger before it has the chance to get up and try to run. But as long as Catherine did what she was supposed to do, which was place the eggshells in the doorway to the kitchen, dining room, and basement, then it has nowhere to run to. The dart hits it right in the back, and just as I'm about to shoot another, it stands up and smacks the gun out of my hand. Then it grabs me by the throat and slams me up against the wall. With its foul breath now penetrating my nostrils, it licks my face, leaving a trail of its repulsive saliva running down my cheek, and says, "I've been waiting for this. I can't wait any longer. I guess your brother will just have to be last." Then it grips me by the hair and tilts my head to the side so that it has a straight shot at my neck. I close my eyes, scared to death, but at the same time, just tired of fighting. As it moves in for the final kill, I hear the tranq gun go off again. I open my eyes and see Zachary holding the gun right up to its temple. Noah now hops on its back, putting it in a chokehold, trying its best to drag it into the cell, with it thrusting and flailing about, trying to fight off all of the tranquilizer we shot it with, but it soon collapses to the ground inside of the cell. Noah runs out, and I slam the iron gate right before it makes one last lunge at me. It recoils as it slams into the iron gate and its skin starts to burn. "Both of your filthy bloodlines will have its day. You can't keep me locked in here forever. Your filthy children, or your filthy children's children, will one day let me loose just like you did, and my reign of slaughter on both of your disgusting bloodlines will continue." I look it dead in the eyes and reply, "I guess we'll just have to wait until then and see what happens." Then I slam the second door and Noah punches the code into the keypad to lock it inside. Thanks to the soundproof walls that Noah's grandfather installed when he built this room, their kids will never have to hear the changeling's screeches and threats. None of us will, ever again. That's when I noticed the cut on Zachary's face and I nearly burst out in tears. "What happened?" I cry. He has a giant gash across the same side of his face as the last time the changeling scratched him, but this one is a lot bigger. As I touch it, he winces. "I'm okay, it's nothing," he replies, pushing my hand away. "I'm your sister, not some girl that you just want to impress by trying to look brave," I think to myself. But instead of telling him that, I give him a hug. And I don't know how to describe the way I'm feeling right now, other than saying that there's a mixture of emotions running through me. I'm relieved, happy, tired, scared. You're probably wondering what else is there to be afraid of when we finally defeated the changeling. Well, I'm scared of not knowing what's going to happen now. Catherine and Noah offer to let us stay with them for as long as we need, and we stay for a few more weeks, but then decide that it's time to move on. After the changeling showed up that one night as Tim, Zachary and I checked the obituaries for weeks because we wanted to at least attend his funeral. We planned on just sneaking in and hiding in the back, but we never saw one for him, which was the strangest thing. So we decided to go back to Colorado to see what's going on. When we pull up to our old house, we find him sitting on the front porch drinking a glass of lemonade. I exit the car and wait at the curb. He knows exactly what I'm thinking, so he rushes inside and returns with a box of gingerbread cookies. Then he shoves one into his mouth. I can't help but to laugh as I go running up the walkway and into his arms. I don't know how he survived, and right at this moment, I don't care. I'm just so happy that he did. When Zachary sees that everything's alright, he comes racing up the walkway and gives Tim a hug. Then we all sit down on the porch. How in the world did you survive? I ask. Honestly, I don't know myself. It came for me while I was working on my truck late one night. Luckily, my brother was here. He had just gone inside to grab a beer. And it attacked me. I didn't even hear the damn thing sneak up because my head was under the truck. Neil came running outside. When he heard me screaming, he thought someone was trying to rob me. Thank God he had his gun on him. He shot at it and scared it off, but not before it nearly took me out, he tells us, lifting his shirt, revealing 3 massive gashes going from the top of his chest all the way down to his stomach. He still has his stitches. Then he continues, after that, I went to every damn grocery store I could find and bought up every single box of gingerbread cookies. Then I surrounded the house with them. Zachary and I both start to laugh. What's so funny? I could have been killed. You know, you could have just used crushed eggshells. The ginger on the cookies probably washed off after the first bad rainstorm. Oh, I didn't think of that, he answers, then begins to laugh too. That was 3 years ago, and I'm sure you're wondering how things turned out for Zachary and I. Well, me and Tim worked things out. I wanted to stay in Colorado, but he said that he wanted a fresh start, so we moved to Texas instead. We have a 2-year-old daughter named Shayla Elizabeth. Shayla after my best friend that I lost to the changeling when I was a little girl, and Elizabeth after my mother. I considered naming her Martha after my grandma, but that's a little too old-fashioned for my liking. And Timothy Michael is our 3-month-old son. Timothy is obviously his father's name, and Michael is after my father. Today we're attending Zachary's high school graduation ceremony. I look up from my phone, and a huge smile spreads across my face just as they call his name and he walks across the stage to accept his diploma. He waves to us in the crowd, and I hold my phone up high so that Noah and Catherine can see. Yes, we still keep in touch with them. They ask us to come visit all of the time. I always tell them I would love to, but I just can't bring myself to spend any more time around that thing since it already consumed so much of my life. The rest of my life is precious time that I plan on spending with my family. Don't forget to subscribe for new stories weekly. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.